everybody, it's your girl Big Moody Booty, and I'm back with another motherfucking video. And today we are doing another spoiling of a movie. That movie is called Sightless. It's new to Netflix. It's not a Netflix original. It's just new to Netflix with my girl Madelaine Petsch or something like that. She's Cheryl. She plays Cheryl Blossom in Riverdale. So yeah, it was a new, like, I don't even know what you'd call it, like a thriller. It was rated M for mature. I guess you'd call it a thriller, but it was not what you would expect. So let's get into it. So basically how this movie starts off is how we think it's gonna end. It starts off with what we think is the ending. So it's basically, you assume that it's my girl, because you see a girl with orange hair basically walking like with her hand out like this, but you're like behind her. And long story short, you see her go to the balcony and then jump off the balcony. That's basically how the movie starts. She jumps off the balcony and then the screen goes black. And then it goes to 1 month earlier. 1 month earlier, she wakes up in a hospital. We're like, okay. So there's somebody checking her out or whatever, checking her vital signs. Long story short, what we find out in the hospital is that she's now blind and she is no longer going to be able to see. So then she calls her brother, who is like apparently not in the country. I think his name was Easton, whatever kind of name is that. So she calls her brother Easton. Apparently they don't really talk. Also, yeah, like what you gather is that she doesn't really have any family. We don't really know where her parents are. We're gonna assume that they're out of the picture because not once were they mentioned. She apparently has this one friend who's like not even really a great friend, and then her brother who's like out of the fucking country or some shit like that. So she calls her brother. He's like, yeah, I have a caretaker for you. I know him, whatever. He's gonna take care of you. They're gonna take you to this place. It's completely safe. Da 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 da. Because what I didn't say in the beginning, she was having flashbacks. So she was basically attacked, which is why she went blind. She was like attacked, like she was boxed, and then she got like sprayed with pepper spray, and apparently it was so much that it made her go blind. And I don't know, like then like pushed to the ground and like left there or some shit like that. So then also what we learned is that she used to be a famous violinist, and like she had albums and she was famous. They didn't really dive deep into that. Apparently like her brother like helped her with stuff, but like it was almost like they wanted us to assume that she did something when she was famous, or like there's people that are after her because she used to be famous and maybe she did something. So it was kind of weird in the beginning. Then now she's in her house, well, the place that she's staying, her brother found for her, blind as a bat. Just remember that throughout this whole movie, she's blind, okay? Then somebody knocks on her bedroom door, not her front door, her bedroom door. We find out it's her caretaker. He comes into the room. What was his name? Clayton. His name was Clayton, and her name was Ellen. He comes in. First of all, I was already like, my first question was like, how the fuck are you at her bedroom door? So anyway, she spends some like 10 minutes with him, just getting to know him, whatever. He says he's gonna come back. What we see, and I'm assuming she hears, is him leaving and locking the door. So he has the keys to her apartment. Now, I've never been a caretaker. I've never been with a caretaker. So I don't know if like caretakers actually have like keys to get into your house. I could understand because she's blind. But even still, that's a little much for me. Where do we go now? This movie was like, there was a lot of unimportant scenes. There was a lot of shit that kind of just like dragged it. Moving on from what I remember again. I watched this last night, by the way, but I was like high as fuck. Oh shit, hold on. Sorry, y'all, I was really interrupted by a phone call. But yeah, then there's a night in her apartment. My food is already cold. This is why I hate frozen food. I've been sitting here for 4 minutes. So one night, she hears, well, actually, first of all, bitch, I don't even know what the fuck was going on. The thing with this movie, what didn't make sense to me, there was a scene where she was like touching her face and she was looking in the mirror. And then all of a sudden, like a big scary noise, like meant to scare the audience, pops up and like her eyes are like bleeding black liquid. When I immediately saw that, I literally said I was not expecting this. Like, what kind of movie is this? Because I was like, isn't she blind? Like, she can't see it, so only we're seeing it? That doesn't make sense. Another scene that doesn't make sense. There was one night, she was in her place, whatever, and she hears like a woman crying. So, mind you, blind. She's now walking around her empty, dark apartment. Hand out, because she's stubborn, doesn't even want to use her stick. My girl's walking like this. There is somebody crying by her ventilation. She has like a vent at the end of this hallway, but she can't see it. So it just didn't make any sense to me why we're seeing it, because then as she gets closer to it, it disappears. So then I'm starting to think, I'm like, does this have to do with ghosts? Does this have to do with spirits? Demons? What is going on? So then apparently she starts listening to the fucking vent. She puts her ear to the vent, and there's like a shadow that like goes by it, and she like freaks out, whatever. I was majorly confused. So then she talks to the caretaker. He comes the next day. She's telling him all this shit, and he's like, wow, your senses are on 10 and they're in overdrive, so you hear everything. Because what she was hearing from the vent is like, apparently, because there's a cup. Excuse me, that was serious burp. Jesus, do I have hiccups? I'm sorry. Because the people that were living across from her, she only had one neighbor. Well, two, but like in one place. It was a couple. And apparently in the ventilation, she heard the woman screaming and the guy was yelling at her. So she thought it was an abusive situation. So she tells that to the caretaker. This man's like, no, your fucking senses are in overdrive. You could hear everything. You could smell everything. Da da da. So she's like, okay, fine, bye. With that being said, every time he comes to visit her, you could see that he's starting to develop feelings for her. Then I remember she leaves a note on her neighbor's door. She's 902, and I believe her neighbor was 901. 90210. She leaves a note saying, let's have tea. And long story short, the woman ends up coming over for tea. I forgot her name. I really don't remember her name. She comes over. She's hella weird, hella moving weird. Like, so what we're assuming is like, maybe she's a fan, like, you know, maybe, or not a fan, maybe someone that wants to hurt Ellen because of her fame, because she's starting to move like really weird. She's like, her energy, you're just looking at her like, so what are you about to do? Because mind you, Miss Ellen is blind, just letting random people into her fucking house. Long story short, Ellen says something and she's like, no, I'm making too much of a mess. And then she like whispers in her ear, don't trust anybody. And then she cuts, basically. So then after she cuts, she decides to call the police, Miss Ellen. I think she heard something after and decided to call the police. So my girl calls this guy, this detective who's on like speed dial for her, who's apparently helping her in her case of who like fucked her up. Calls the police over for a noise complaint. So then the police come and she sees like the officer at the door, but then she doesn't watch what happens. Then she like closes the door. What? No, I'm sorry. She didn't see nothing. She's blind. But I meant to say is like, I guess she could feel the energy, because also she was feeling energy, which is what you were learning. But what you learned is that some of the energy that she was feeling, she would think it's somebody when it's really somebody else. So that's a clue too. Pay attention to that. So whatever, she believes that the cop went to speak to this couple. Then, like, yo, the most happens. Then the husband of the wife, who are the neighbors. Yes, I'm sorry. No. This is what happened. So then the next day after the police come, she goes out into the hallway to go to that door to find the woman and tell her, I'm sorry. So she starts talking to the woman and she's like, I'm sorry about last night. Then she realizes she's not speaking to the women. She could feel the energy. So it was the guy, the husband, the scary husband. So she jets back to her room. So she jets back to her door actually, and she's like talking to him. She's like, say something, speak, like, da-da-da-da, let me know you're there. And then my girl was like researching him on the computer. So then the computer says his name. She runs into the room, closes the door. This man busts open the door and basically says something like, we don't need more nosy bitches around here. Literally, that's basically what he said, and then left. Ciao. Then she calls over Clayton, tells him all this shit, whatever. He was talking about, oh, I had to build up the courage to come up here and tell you that I can't be your caretaker anymore. And she's like, what are you fucking talking about? And this man's like, well, I have feelings for you, so... She claims that she has feelings for him and she needs him for help, so he needs to stay. I'm not even gonna dive into that stupidness. So long story short, from there, then he leaves. She's alone in her crib. I forgot to say this earlier, but she was hearing a lot of noises in her house, but she didn't know what it was. Besides that weird duppy ghost shit, whatever the fuck they were trying to accomplish with that scene, she was hearing movements in her house. She would even hear her bedroom door rattling. So then she's like in her room, I think, and somebody unlocks the door. So she comes in and thinks it's Clayton, like, coming back. So she starts apologizing. She's like, you know what, I'm sorry about our last conversation, da-da-da-da. Then, and we're seeing this, right? So it looks like it's him there. Then she's like, no, it's not you. And then so it switches to the neighbor, the guy. And then she's like, no, this is not you either. And then it switches to the person that attacked her and who put her into the hospital. And the reason she knew this person, because this person had like a fucking, like a gas mask. So she's like, I could hear her breathing through that gas mask. So, or hear him, whatever. So then she called, so whatever, like, I don't really know what happened. It was like the person like kind of like choked her ish, and then and then it was like the next scene. So whatever. You see her talking to the detective now. She's telling him, yes, it's a man. You know, it felt like a man. This is the same person that attacked me. So the detective's like, well, my first hint would probably be the caretaker that's taking care of the blind single woman. And she's like, no, it can't be him. Like, it can't be him, da-da-da-da. So the detective's like, maybe it could be this girl, Sarah, who she was trying to call like 1,000 times and the bitch never picked up. So she's like, it couldn't be her, like, da-da-da. She doesn't want to believe it, ray-tay-tay, whatever. There was that. The detective says to her, you're lucky we haven't put you on suicide watch. The next scene, the next day, basically takes us to what we saw in the beginning of the film, which is her jumping off the balcony, but showing it from the beginning. So she's typing out this whole like suicide note, basically. Not typing it, but saying it, like word, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. She was saying it and the computer was writing it down. Writing this whole suicide note, and then she falls off the balcony and the screen goes black. So I'm like, wait. Then this bitch wakes up, except she's not outside on the concrete in a puddle of her own blood. No, she's in a styrofoam fucking box. So she starts touching everything because, again, she's blind. She can't see where she is. She starts touching everything, and what we're seeing is the sounds of the street, because when she was in her condo, there were sounds that she would hear, street sounds, you know, cars, lights, horns. What we're seeing is that it's programmed. It's not real. It's like coming from a radio. And then we realize, so she's in this box and she climbs up. And when she climbs up and like over, she's back into her condo. So what we start to realize, and what actually she starts to realize too, but we could actually see it, is that she is being held somewhere. She did not jump outside. She jumped into something that is connected to the building that she's already in. There is no way to jump into the outside world. So this is what we're starting to realize. Then she starts to like put the pieces of the puzzles together. She starts to use her brain, her intuition. So then she tries to look for my girl. The girl that came to her before, because apparently she left like a lighter in her house. She finds her, and then the neighbor goes back to her house, and Ellen is basically asking her like, there's cameras here, right? There's like microphones and da-da-da. And the girl's like, of course there is, da-da-da-da. I don't remember what happens, but she said something to her. She said something to Ellen, and then her husband is at the door. So then she leaves and Ellen is alone. And then Clayton comes. And then we realize that the woman, the neighbor, is being let out. So what we realize, because Ellen starts asking Clayton questions and she's like, where the fuck am I? Da, 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 da. What the fuck is going on? Yes, because I remember the woman told her that they are doing this for you. Because she asked her, why am I being held captive? And the woman said, they're doing this for you. So she was like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she's starting to ask Clayton these questions like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are we doing? So he makes it seem as if she's in like this weird sort of psych ward that doesn't let you out until they deem you like safe enough or like there enough to go out into the real world. So then he does admit to her that yes, you are being in some sort of captivity. Obviously the bitch doesn't like that. So he's about to make dinner for her because that's what he would do. So they sit down. Long story short, she ends up boxing him with something. She was gonna grab the knives, but like I said, the bitch was blind and she miscalculated and grabbed something else. But she boxed him with it. She leaves. She runs to the elevator. She realizes the elevator doesn't open. It doesn't work. She runs to the neighbor's door. That door doesn't open. There's no lock. She's realizing that everything in this building is not real. Slowly. Then the weirdest thing happened. She went back to her apartment, the door, and the man came out of nowhere and like grabbed her neck, but then like fell. It was the weirdest thing ever. He like literally came out of nowhere with like, and then he like fell. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? And like he's just there laying on the, like he got back up after being boxed in the head, tried to grab her for a second and then fell to the floor. And then apparently there was a bag right by that door. So I don't know what the bitch, she grabbed something from there. I can't remember where she went, but she ended up finding her way around this fucking warehouse. So she's walking everywhere. She's starting to learn more things. Cause sorry, what I didn't say also, before when he was about to make her dinner and before she boxed him in the head with the thing, he said something that the doctor said to her and that the detective said to her. The same exact thing, and like he would say something then knock. Like that. And the doctor said the same thing and the detective said the same thing. So then she started to, so anyway, so that's when she boxed him and then left. So then now when she's in like his warehouse, she doesn't know she's there, but she's in this warehouse. She's touching like this rack of clothing. She starts to touch it and starts to realize this is a detective's outfit. This is a doctor's outfit. This is Clayton's usual outfit. This is, so she's starting to realize, and what we start to see is that every single person she's interacted with is Clayton. And then it shows a scene where he said something about he loves birds because he loves to have them in his cage and like take care of them. And they all get a different type of Clayton. Like they're all his little like pets or dolls and they all get a different side of him. And she like asked him, so what side of Clayton do I get? And he's like, well, that's the scary part. You get like me. So she's replaying this in her head as she's running away blind. Yo, first of all, that shit was actually stressed. I was like, okay, now I'm actually stressed. So then she ends up finding the woman who is the neighbor randomly in some fucking bed. Ciao. Randomly in some fucking bed. And she's like, we have to go. It's you and me. Like, let's do this. Let's get out of here. Like, you don't need to like live under somebody else. Da da da. So long story short, she finds out that this woman is actually Clayton's sister, right? She's not a fucking neighbor because the neighbors don't exist. They're all him. The fucking crazy neighbor that she thought was abusing this woman was Clayton. The detective was Clayton. The doctor was Clayton. Everything was Clayton. I even fucking think the brother on the phone was Clayton. Okay, I don't think she actually talked to her actual brother. Then, so yeah, so this bitch is apparently his sister just working for him and his crazy fucking psycho shit. She's like, no, I can't leave with you, but there's only one way out of this place, and it's a vent in his room, and when you open that vent, it's the only way out, it's the only way out, it's the only way out! Like, she said it 1,000 fucking times. So we're like, okay, sis, we get it. So this blind bitch starts to go run to find his room, which I was like, oh my god, how are you gonna fucking do this? The bitch left her damn stick. She's blind as fuck. It's dark as fuck. And So what happens? She gets caught by Mr. Clayton. He fucking decks her in her face. I was like, okay, Jesus Christ. Then, luckily for her, she wakes up in his room. He had her like tied up and shit, like her ankles and her hands. What happened? So basically he started telling her why he's a psycho. So long story short, this man was talking about how he had to watch his mother like left them, and then he had to watch his dad kill all of her birds. And then apparently the dad put him in like a box for 3 years or something like that. And he would hear music coming out of like the vent or whatever thing he was in. And it happened to be Ellen's music because like I said in the beginning, she's a violinist. So that's what it meant when the sister said he's doing this for you because you saved him. Because apparently her music saved him from whatever the fuck he was going through, which obviously did not save him that well because the nigga's crazy. So long story short, from that scene, she fucks him up again, goes to the vent. But mind you, this vent, she puts her arms in it, and honey, that's the only thing that's fitting. This vent, she could not even put her head, like it literally came up to here. It was the smallest vent of life. Then she likes touching it and she realizes there's like a small little capsule with liquid in it. So she takes it. That small capsule, they left that up to assumption. Then long story short, she runs somewhere. He ends up catching her again. He's all up on her. And then she's like lying down. He's about to come on top of her. And then he realizes, like she opens her hands and he sees that like the capsule is empty. So he's like, what did you do? And then she like spits it out at him. At the same time, she probably swallowed a little bit or some of it was in her throat because she starts tweaking and going like this. The nigga starts tweaking. So we're supposed to assume that maybe this is the pepper spray that he used on her because the guy's tweaking and he's like, what's happening? What's happening? Like, weird as shit. Long story short, the sister comes and he's like, don't leave me like this. Da da da. But they do. Well, she does. And like, so literally the sister walks her to the garage door to whatever fucking warehouse. So obviously there was more than one way out. But obviously the sister had her own plans and couldn't do it her own damn self. It shows you like she opens it and there's like bright light. It's supposed to be outside. And then you see Ellen like walking through it. And then the final scene is like 6 months later. And she's basically with her violin. And she's about to go on stage to perform in front of this huge audience as an artist with her violin. And that's how the movie finishes. Yeah. I don't know. I would give that movie, I would rate it like a 6.5 out of 10. It's almost hard to rate it because it almost like did not do anything for me. Like literally nothing for me. It was so weird. And like I feel like they could have, it was a good, like, yeah, I'm gonna just give it a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. Because, I don't know. It was kind of like that other movie with the girl who played Veronica from Riverdale. Inheritance? No, that's not her. That's Lily Collins. I forgot which one it was. But like, I don't know why. Like, both of the movies were like very choppy and kind of like just random. And it's like, okay, I know y'all are busy with Riverdale, but like, come on. But anyways, yeah, y'all. So that is my spoiling of Sightless on Netflix with Madelaine Petsch, I think, or Petsch. I don't remember. With my girl Madelaine, Miss Cheryl Blossom. So if you like this review, please give it a big thumbs up. If you want to go see the movie after I already spoiled it, go ahead. Whatever. Also, I wanted to say, this is from my friend's brand. I will link their stuff in the description box below. It's Real Rhinestones. I've washed this at least like 5 times and none of them have come off. The brand is called 1300 on Instagram. So Yes. Anyways, y'all, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.